Man, people on the left are pissed at Gavin Newsom lately. Apparently, the other day, he had People's Least Sexy Man of the Year, Charlie Kirk, on his podcast. But they became more upset about Gavin Newsom agreeing with Charlie Kirk when it came to trans women in sports.
California Governor Gavin Newsom criticizing transgender athletes who participate in women's sports during the debut episode of his new podcast. Listen to this.
I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. I revere sports. And so the issue of fairness is completely legit. And I saw that the last couple of years. Boy, did I saw how you guys were able to weaponize that issue.
Newsom there talking about all this. And why is it such a big deal? Couple reasons. Not many elected Democrats have taken that position. Also, governor is seen as a pretty likely candidate for president come 2028. Keep in mind, there are a lot of Americans who agree with Newsom on this. According to multiple recent polls, more than half the country think that trans women athletes should not be competing in women's sports. And the issue of transgender rights overall became a real talker in the 2024 campaign, remember.
Here's the deal. Trans women in sports is a sinking issue for Democrats who are running for office. As you saw, the majority of Americans are very much against trans women being in women's sports. And it's mostly because all of us have been conditioned by the patriarchy to see women as being these little frail things and men being big and strong. There are a lot of mediocre men who think that they could score a point against Serena Williams or last a round with Ronda Rousey. Look at me talking like I know anything about sports. But here's the deal. Gavin Newsom is probably going to be running for president in 2028, and he needs to be on the right side of what the majority of Americans want. Now, does he personally believe that trans women are a threat to women's sports? Who knows? But as we saw in the last election, you have to be effective with messaging to win. Before Obama was president, he said he was anti-gay marriage, but he was the president that got gay marriage pushed through. Why? Because people's attitudes largely changed over time. It was his 7th year in office before he was able to get that passed. Sometimes politicians have to say what the majority of people want to hear to get elected to office. Then when they actually get into office, they can kind of tweak their stances on things. We're seeing it right now with Trump. Nobody wanted the Gulf of America or to try to make Canada our 51st state. This is something that he came up with after he was elected. This is why it was so stupid for people on the far, far left to not want to vote for Kamala because of her stance on Palestine. It was very clear that she wanted the best solution for both sides, but she had to walk a very fine line between saying what she could say about Israel's government and coming off a little bit anti-Semitic. It seems like the majority of the people think that when a president gets elected, they can just be like, screw you voters, now I'm going to do whatever I want, suckers. And with Trump, kind of the case, but historically that has not been the case with most politicians or presidents. And even with Trump trying to do it that way, he is being met with loads of backlash. We definitely have the ability to sway a president a certain way while they're in office. Joe Biden turned out to be way more progressive than I ever expected for him to be. He wasn't as progressive as I would have liked for him to be, but he was better than I expected. But those people who were trying to punish Kamala for Joe Biden's actions basically shot us all in the collective foot. Now, do I believe that Gavin Newsom would be the best candidate for president? I don't know. There are a lot of factors at play here. I want to know what his platform is, and I want to know who he's running against. Because if he's running against somebody like AOC, he's probably not getting my vote because she's way more progressive than he is. But in the end, it does not matter who wins the Democratic primary. We all need to rally behind that candidate, even if it wasn't our first choice. I don't want to see anybody be a little bitch baby because their candidate didn't make it past the primary. Bernie Bros, I'm looking your direction. Blue and on. You know what you did. Anyway, it is still very early days yet, but we do need to be thinking ahead to 2028 and who we would like to see as our presidential candidate. There might be somebody out there who hadn't even thought about running for president yet that we could all get behind, and we probably should. But the important thing here is that we all need to get on the same page as fast as we can. Because I am not going to put up with that shit for another 4 to 8 years if we end up with President J.D. Vance or President Don Jr. If that happens, we are in idiocracy. This country deserves everything bad that ever happens to it, and I'm getting the fuck out of here.